Let's discuss a clinical case of ascites. A patient 50-year-old presented with abdominal distension with a history of chronic alcohol intake. So let's see how to approach such case if a alcoholic patient presenting to us with abdominal distension. First, we should know what are the causes of abdominal distension. The causes of abdominal distension will be 5F, that is fluid, which is ascites, fat, that is obesity, flatus, feces, or fetus. Besides these 5F causes, it can be some intra-abdominal mass like a malignancy or retention of urine. Now, if a patient of abdominal distension is coming to us, the most important cause will be the fluid, that is a case of ascites. So let's see how to examine a case of ascites. So first is the shifting dullness. We will percuss from the midline and go laterally towards the flanks. And when we will see appreciate a dullness which is probably because of the fluid, we will keep our hand there and ask the patient to lie on the other side. We'll wait for approximately 10 seconds, and after 10 seconds then we will percuss the same area again. So the initial dullness will now become tympanic because the fluid must have been shifted to the other side. This is known as the shifting dullness test, a very important test for the ascites. The second test is the fluid thrill, and in the fluid thrill we will tap the abdomen from one side like this and appreciate the thrill on the opposite side, while the patient can keep, or a second examiner can keep, the hand in the midline. So this is known as the fluid thrill examination. Viva questions, bedside questions will be: why this abdominal distension is ascites? Reason: there is a shifting dullness. So that is ascites case. Also, there is a fluid thrill. So we can say with confidence that it is a case of ascites. Now the next question will be: what are the causes of the ascites? This is a very important concept, and so many misconceptions are there on this concept. So whenever examiner asks you what are the causes of ascites, that is broadly classified according to not exudative or transudative, it is according to the SAAG. That is a very important gradient. That gradient is serum albumin minus ascitic albumin. That is the difference between the serum albumin concentration and ascitic albumin concentration. And on this flowchart you can see, if this gradient is less than 1.1, so it could be because of either the serum albumin is going down, like in a nephrotic syndrome, or it could be because of ascitic fluid albumin is going high due to the inflammatory conditions of peritoneum, which leads to the leakage of the albumin into the peritoneal space, increasing its concentration. So these are the inflammatory causes like tuberculosis or any carcinoma, or maybe because of pancreatitis, acute pancreatitis. The other cause can be the more than 1.1, the gradient more than or equal to 1.1. So this gradient will be more than equal to 1.1 either because of serum albumin is high, but that condition will not lead to ascites, or ascitic albumin is low, that will lead to the increased gradient, the increased difference. So the ascitic albumin is low because of high sinusoidal pressures. So sinusoid is a space. If its pressure is increased, the fluid will leak into the peritoneum without albumin leakage. So as a result, ascitic fluid albumin will become low because only the fluid is going into the peritoneal space, not the albumin. So that will dilute the already existing albumin in the peritoneal space, leading to a decreased ascitic albumin, increasing the gradient. Now, this increased sinusoidal pressures can be because of two reasons, and they can be differentiated on the basis of second test, and that is a ascitic fluid total proteins. Total protein, if it is less than 2.5, grams per deciliter, then it is because of the cirrhosis. Now, why cirrhosis cause the increased sinusoidal pressures? Because cirrhotic nodules compress that space, and if sinusoidal space is compressed, its pressure will increase, and that will lead to the leakage of the fluid into the peritoneum. So remember, the main side of the leakage of fluid in the cirrhosis is from the sinusoidal space into the peritoneum, across the liver surface, across the bare areas of the livers. Now, the second possibility can be ascitic total proteins is more than equal to 2.5 gram per deciliter. These are the post-sinusoidal causes. Post-sinusoidal causes will be obstruction of hepatic vein causing the back pressure on the sinusoidal space, or it could be some cardiac causes like CHF, constrictive pericarditis. But in those causes, there will be more than equal to 2.5 gram per deciliter of total protein in the peritoneal space. So this is a very simple and short flow chart with the causes of ascites. Now, other question will be, what other history point will you ask if a patient is coming to you with ascites? What are the other history point? The most common cause of the ascites is always a chronic liver disease. So we will ask the points of chronic liver disease like jaundice. For how long the patient is having jaundice, yellowness of sclera and yellowness of skin, and that jaundice has been discussed in the other lectures. There will be a black colored stools when there is a upper GI bleed, that will lead to a black colored stools, and that will indicate the portal hypertension like rupture of esophageal varices leading to the upper GI bleed and consequently black colored stools. Then we will ask the patient altered sleep cycle. That will give us a clue for the complication like encephalopathy in chronic liver disease. We will ask for any episode of hematemesis. We will ask the patient history of blood transfusion, because it can be a cause of chronic liver disease due to hepatitis B or hepatitis C. Though our patient is a chronic alcoholic patient, but it does not mean that liver disease can be only due to alcohol. There can be a viral causes also like hepatitis B or hepatitis C. So we will ask for that blood transfusion history. We will ask for the diabetes mellitus that causes a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, one of the ignored point in the history, that chronic liver disease is due to the insulin resistance seen in type 2 diabetes mellitus, leading to the chronic liver disease and hence ascites. Then we will ask for any behavior changes in the patient, especially if patient is a young patient. And what does it give us a clue? It will give us a clue towards the Wilson disease. Behavior changes, the CNS changes are important in Wilson's disease. While we will also look for other etiologies like inflammatory causes of tuberculosis. So we will ask the history of fever. And as well as we will ask the history of past history of any tuberculosis. That should be these are the essential points in the history to be asked from any patient with suspected ascites case. Now, what are the other signs do you like to see in a patient of ascites? So other signs that we should look for is the signs of a chronic liver disease. Again, chronic liver disease is the most common cause of a ascites, and this we have discussed in other lectures. The signs of the chronic liver disease like spider angiomas, like the ascites case, or maybe the Dupuytren contracture, gynecomastia. So this we all have discussed. Now there can be a generalized swelling, so we will look for the facial edema, facial puffiness, as well as the edema, pitting edema in the legs, sacral edema if patient is a non-ambulatory patient, and that generalized swelling will give us a clue of a disease like a nephrotic syndrome in which there is a anasarca. Then we will look for the engorged neck veins like raised JVP. We will auscultate the heart for any abnormal heart sounds like S3, pericardial knock seen in CHF and constrictive pericarditis respectively, because that also lead to the ascites case. We will look for lymphadenopathy seen in lymphomas or disseminated tuberculosis. Now, if there is a generalized edema, so examiner question will be, what are the causes of ascites with generalized edema? So causes will be CHF, of course, the advanced stage of the CHF. nephrotic syndrome, hypoproteinemia. And remember one thing, in constrictive pericarditis, ascites is out of proportion to the pedal edema. Ascites is very severe and pedal edema is very mild or maybe absent. That is a characteristic feature seen in the constrictive pericarditis, and that question has been asked in your PG entrance exams. Now, what are the causes of hepatomegaly with ascites? So we will look for the size of the liver. So the causes will be hepatoma, CHF or constrictive pericarditis, lymphomas, disseminated tuberculosis can cause hepatomegaly with ascites, Budd-Chiari syndrome in which there is a tender hepatomegaly, and disseminated malignancies with the secondaries in the liver can have hepatomegaly. Next question, what will be the causes of splenomegaly with ascites? Obviously, the number one cause will be portal hypertension, while other causes will be lymphomas, leukemias, and disseminated tuberculosis. Then, what are the causes of hepatosplenomegaly? Both liver and spleen are enlarged along with the ascites. So, the causes will be cirrhosis of the liver with portal hypertension, but with specific cause like hemochromatosis. In other causes, liver is usually normal size in cirrhosis or reduced in size. So, hemochromatosis, it will be increased. Then, of course, the blood malignancies and disseminated tuberculosis. Now, what are the investigations which are to be done in a patient of ascites coming to us? Investigation will be, of course, ultrasound of the abdomen to confirm our diagnosis, liver function test to rule out any chronic liver diseases, then CBC. In the CBC, high ESR will suggest tuberculosis, leukocytosis will suggest some pyogenic infection of the peritoneum, pancytopenia with splenomegaly will indicate a hypersplenism. While chest X-ray will be done to rule out any pulmonary tuberculosis or any cardiomegaly or chronic constrictive pericarditis where we can see a calcification of the pericardium. Of course, the ascitic fluid analysis is of paramount importance to know the exact cause. What are the best site for ascitic fluid analysis and why? So the next question will be, you are going for ascitic fluid analysis where you should put the needle into best site. So the best site of the needle insertion is a left lower quadrant, and that left lower quadrant, the point is the medial 2/3 and lateral 1/3 of spino-umbilical line. Spino-umbilical lines means from the umbilicus we will draw oblique line towards the superior iliac spine. And why this site is chosen? Because it is less vascular and there we will get a deep pocket of the fluid, so the yield will be high for the ascitic fluid at that site. Though we can tap on the right side also, that is not contraindicated, but left is more appropriate and best site. Now, what is the size of the needle for a ascitic fluid tap? If we are going for a diagnostic tap, it is 22 G, while for therapeutic tap it is 15 G. So that means कि for therapeutic we need a large size of the needle. Now, how the color of the ascitic fluid help in identification of the etiology? The color of the fluid, if it is a serous or watery, it is a non-inflammatory causes like a nephrotic syndrome. When it is milky, it is a chylous effusion. Chylous effusion means triglycerides are more, and this is also a MCQ. When the triglyceride concentration is more than 200 mg per deciliter in the peritoneal fluid, this is a chylous ascites. The most common cause is surgical trauma leading to disruption of lymphatic drainage. The most important common cause is surgical. Non-surgical, most common cause is cirrhosis for chylous ascites. It can be hemorrhagic, 3 T's, tumor, trauma, tuberculosis. They can cause a hemorrhagic ascites. Black ascites, it is because of the pancreatic necrosis as well as because of the malignant melanomas. Dark brown, it is because of the perforated biliary duct tract rupture. So perforated biliary tract will cause a dark brown. While the other test which we have discussed in the previous part, that we will calculate the SAAG and the total ascitic protein, fluid protein we will assess, and that will help us in making a appropriate etiological diagnosis. Finally, what are the complications of ascites? If the patient coming to us with ascites, what can happen? The complication of ascites can be a spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, and that is very important, especially in cases of cirrhosis, in cases of nephrotic syndrome. Spontaneous bacterial peritonitis can occur. Hepatorenal syndrome can occur in chronic liver disease, in cirrhosis. Hernia, abdominal wall hernia, because of the high intra-abdominal pressure can occur. Pleural effusion can also take place because of the tense ascites. Respiratory distress, because lungs can be compromised. So these are the important complication of ascites. Now, what is our final diagnosis in the case 50-year-old alcoholic patient with abdominal distension? So again, the same points, the flow of diagnosis will be anatomical diagnosis first. So this is a anatomy, peritoneum is affected, ascites is there. Second, pathological diagnosis, whether it is a inflammatory or non-inflammatory, or maybe whether it is due to high sinusoidal pressure or whether it is not related to the high sinusoidal pressure. So that is a pathology depending on the SAAG. And etiological diagnosis, depending on the investigation result, we can say whether it was because of the cirrhosis, whether it was because of nephrotic syndrome, CHF. So we can find out the etiology according to the ascitic fluid analysis. Complications, like if there is any secondary infection occurring in that, any abdominal hernia, wall hernias are taking place, or patient is in respiratory distress or not. So this should be our sequence of telling the final diagnosis to the examiner. Hopefully you like this approach of ascites.